Hi guys, welcome back to the Drive Live channel. In today's video, we're going to be running some diagnostics on my Volvo S80. Now, I talked about in a previous video that we've been having a few issues with the car, with the engine. We've got a bit of a hiccup while the car's under light load. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the car plugged into my diagnostic software and run a few checks, see what comes up, and go from there. So I'm going to talk you through as well the kit that I use. I don't use Vida. I've been able to sort of do this that does everything that Vida can do for half the price really, for what I need. So yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into it. Okay then, so we're going to be using a Bluetooth adapter. As you can see, it's a Vpeak unit. I think I got this off Amazon for about £9. It's a really good bit of kit. Yeah, as you can see, Vpeak OBD2 BLE. It's your standard Bluetooth receiver that plugs into your OBD2, which is fitted to every car. I think it's from 1996 onwards is OBD2. So onboard diagnostics, that stands for. So for those of you that don't know, the port is just under here. You can feel it if you run your hand along, just below the handbrake switch, and all this does is just slide straight in onto it. It's a bit fiddly if you're not looking where you are. Now these are really good for finding out what is wrong with your car. Volvo are notoriously difficult to get a good diagnostics read on, just because the software they use for their car doesn't always agree with certain things, certain bits of software that you can use to read it. Now, just turn this down, and we don't need the heated seats on either because we're not going anywhere. It's quite warm in here. Let's drop it right down and just give us a little bit of air. So, we're going to open now the software on my phone. The software I use is called GaragePro. Or Car PM, some people know it as well. And as you can see here, we have all of our options. Now I've gone for a lifetime piece of software which I paid 70 quid for about 3 years ago, and I can still use it. You've got all sorts of different bits and pieces. This is the sort of general dashboard. You've got the full scan, smog check, which is basically measures the amount of CO2 etc that goes out to make sure you're actually going to pass the MOT. Clear codes will just automatically clear any codes. Got live data, which gives you live data, believe it or not. Special functions, I don't actually have access to that because I don't have the business package, but that you can use to code injectors and stuff like that. I think that's £300, but that gives you dealer level coding abilities as well, which is quite good, I think, considering you're probably going to pay 100 quid anyway at a dealer. May as well pay 300 and be able to do it yourself for life. We've got basic scan, freeze frame, that's where you can sort of save data, service reset and misfire monitoring as well. So I'm going to go for a full scan on this one. It's just going to verify that I'm legit and I've actually paid. We've got a Volvo, select the car make, that changes what sort of modules it looks for. Now it's going to scan for the modules. Now as you can see, we've got ABS, all-wheel drive, that's because Volvos have an all-wheel drive module anyway in them. It's actually part of another module, but it comes up as a separate module on here. Airbag, battery, central CEM, which is quite a big one, closed velocity module, differential electronics, all these sort of bits and pieces. So what we're going to do is we're going to scan them all. So the car, or the software will look for all of these modules, whether the car has them or not, and then we'll go from there. So as you can see, it's managed to ascertain the VIN number of the car there. And it's done a basic scan, which is sort of any major faults that come up on the dashboard it will scan for, or any engine warning lights or anything like that, and then it's going to go through them individually. So we're just scanning the engine now, and which is where I'm expecting the fault to be. So if one comes up, then I'm not too bothered. Now I used this software on my BMW 1 Series before it got written off, and there we go, we've got one fault on the engine, so that might explain our little hiccup when it's under light load. And it came up with 48 different faults on the car. It was hilarious. Everything from the glow plugs were a bit dodgy, I knew anyway. Glow plugs, even to the seat heaters had a fault. It was hilarious. And there was a couple, the aircon kept having a fault, different fan speeds, all sorts of, yeah. But on the Volvo, I've only really ever had 1 or 2 faults at a time, and they've been sort of what are called historic faults, where basically the car has had an issue, or perhaps something hasn't worked as expected. For example, this mirror here, imagine if that got jammed because it was frozen, that would be recorded as a fault because the mirror hasn't deployed properly, and then it would save it. So that's just, yeah, it's quite common to have these bits and pieces up here on there. But the BMW faults were 48 live faults, so yeah, a bit mad. But yeah, we're nearly there. We've just got a few more bits to go. It doesn't take long at all. I think this has already taken less than 5 minutes, and we're halfway through. But yeah, this bit of software is the best that I've found for getting into Volvo modules that isn't VIDA, if that makes sense. For those of you that don't know what VIDA is, it's basically a piece of software with a special plug that you can buy on eBay. It's about £150. You have to have a laptop that's compatible, which is from about 2010, so you have to buy an old crappy laptop, which is quite big and bulky. It's not something you can just keep in the car or have in your pocket, which is what I like about this method of doing things. So yeah, we're just getting to the end of this. This is just on an Android phone as well, which is the best part of it, really. So I'm actually quite impressed. We've only got one fault with the engine. The rest of it is all absolutely fine. So let's wait for it just to finish here. This, it scans any other modules that perhaps the software didn't have coded into it, so that'll take a few minutes. So we've got one fault so far, which is good, because normally if it's like a serious problem there's multiple faults, whereas this one's only one fault. So I reckon it'll probably be a sensor or something like that, perhaps mass airflow sensor or an intake temperature sensor or something, because the car just sort of has a little blip. And what it can be is if the sensor's dirty or faulty, the car can't quite work out how much fuel to inject. So if you have suddenly a really high reading from a sensor, the car will cut fuel to not overwhelm the engine, and then that can affect, that's what can cause the hiccups, etc. So yeah, interesting stuff. And these cars are very complicated in the fact that they measure the amount of air coming in and then adjust the fuel to match it, to give you sort of a good amount of performance. That's why if you drive at really high altitudes, you can use more fuel because the air is less dense, etc. Or it might be the other way. No, it's less dense. So yeah, we're finished now. It's just going to fetch the results. And what's really good is it actually sends you an email with the report on, which is quite nice. So we've got a P0096 fault, which is a performance fault with the intake air temperature sensor. So it isn't a historical fault, it's a fault that's happening now. If we show details, this bit of software actually gives you various bits of advice. So, performance fault with the intake air temperature sensor detected. Probable causes, faulty intake air temperature sensor, which is probably right, or poor electrical sort of circulation. Possible solution is check the map sensor with the key in the engine off, make sure there's enough voltage going to it. Fuel lines, exhaust leaks, vacuum pump voltage output test of the map sensor. So yeah, the fact there's mentioned a map sensor, I think I'll have a look at that as well as the intake air temperature. So yeah, what we can also do then is clear it. So you can clear the code, turn the engine off with the key position on. It will clear the fault codes. So yeah, a nice little bit of kit, definitely. So in the next video, we're going to take a look at that. We're going to remove the air intake temperature sensor, and we're also going to take out the mass airflow sensor and give that a clean as well, because although it says that it's the air temperature sensor, it can be also, just keep the car on so it can clear the fault, it can also be the mass airflow sensor giving dodgy readings, which then trips the intake air temperature, and the car doesn't necessarily know that the mass airflow sensor is playing up. So we're going to explore those because they're all sort of part of the same system anyway. What I'll do once this is cleared, this fault is cleared, I'll show you some of the other software that I use and some of the other sort of features on here as well. This video isn't paid or anything by this company. I just like it, and I thought you guys would be interested in how I sort of go about the diagnostics side of things on this car, because it's sort of a mythical land that people talk about on the forums and perhaps don't actually sort of give you the full stuff. So I'm just going to cancel that now, because I know that the engine one's been done, and I know that there's no more. So that's that done. I don't need to rate the app. Right, so what I'll do now is I'm just going to start the car up again, and I'm going to show you guys the live data. So give it a second while it receives the data. So you've got your speed here, RPM, battery voltage, engine load, throttle position. It takes a while to get about right. Obviously we're not at 89% throttle position. Mass airflow sensor saying we're getting 7.4 grams per second. Intake manifold pressure, intake air temperature. So yeah, this can give you live readings, and you can actually work out whether the sensor's faulty when you're driving. If you get sort of random spikes or drops in the data, it suggests that the sensor is faulty, which is quite useful, and you can just get there. So if we you can see how the stuff suddenly starts sucking much more air in, the pressure goes up. So yeah, I mean, it's not perfect. It does take a little while. If we rev it up to 3,000 RPM, you can see that it comes up on there. It gives you a pretty good live readout. I don't tend to use this for this particular purpose on this software. I find a better one is actually called OBD Talk Pro. As you can see, I've got various. This one's the Jeep, the J Scan. Let's find Talk Pro. Where is it? Oh, there we go. Talk. So, real-time information. Now what you can do is there's so many different possibilities that you can add here, such as, this is not the throttle sensor. What other bits have we got? Revs. And you can basically create your own bits. So if we add a display, what sort of display do we want to have a look at? Let's have a look at, we've got engine torque, air fuel ratio, ambient air temperature, my phone battery level as well. Got a lot of YouTubers uploading as well at this time. Barometer, barometric pressure, catalyst temperature, which is all stuff. So that might be quite good if you're looking for regen cycles. If that suddenly increases, you know you're going through a regen cycle. Distance to empty, sometimes it doesn't read them all perfectly. EGR commanded, I'm not actually sure what that is, but engine coolant temperature, that's a good one to know, because the Volvo doesn't actually tell you. Engine load 52%, it's because it's sat here idling and it's not doing anything proper. Fuel flow rate, we're using 0.4 litres per hour and 2.5 litres per hour. I'm guessing it's more. 2.5 litres per hour. Fuel level, we've got 75% of diesel left, which is good. I only filled it up the other day at 80 quid. Fuel rail pressure, fuel remaining, yeah, there's absolutely loads of stuff that you can get. Intake air temperature, as you can see, that's a nice linear number, so I don't think that there's an issue with the intake air temperature sensor. As you can see, it is staying at a pretty constant rate, so we'll have to have a look at that. This gives you a live amount of mass airflow rate. Can you see it's slightly it's not giving a proper value, so I think the mass airflow sensor is perhaps being a bit funny. Now I'm going to remove it and clear it first and see how that is. If not, I might have to replace it, but it should be giving us really a more constant rate than that. It doesn't stay permanently at the same number, but it does normally give you a slightly better constant number. So yeah, there's grams per second, that is the air going in. So yeah, what's cool as well with this is that you can view it on a map. It's not currently set up because I haven't set it up yet. You can track data and track journeys, which means you can graph the data. So you can do, basically you can track a journey, you can set your parameters that you want to measure. Say I wanted to measure coolant temperature, transmission temperature, etc., and then it will record them on a map as well, which is quite cool. So you can see if you're going uphill, your transmission temperature is going to go up slightly, and it's all reflected. So yeah, it's one of those things that you can sit there all day and play with. And Mrs. DL goes mental at me because she's like, well, we're only going to the shop, so why do you need to know what your air intake temperature is? I just tell her she wouldn't understand. But yeah, so if you're looking for a new sort of gadget to play with the car, then definitely look at these bits of kit, because yeah, they just can absorb time. But yeah, that's it, guys. So we're going to take a look at the I'll do mass airflow sensor first as a video, and then we'll do the intake air temperature sensor as well. I think that'll be quite a good thing to take a look at. But yeah, from me, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.